We are live. We're live. We're live. We're live. I am Dr. Steve Perry. Welcome to No Dumb Questions. No Dumb Questions is a conversation that we have about the things that are important to you. It's not just an opportunity for me to share some ideas, but it really is my reaction to some of the questions that come our way. And then in coming weeks, you're going to, and I'm going to announce it at the end of this, so it won't be long, but I some really super special guests. And what excites me about these special guests is you know them as literally platinum artists in one case, actually an icon, and then a person who was part of a cultural phenomena also in the coming weeks. But I'm going to get to them in a moment. I'm excited because I'm an educator, social worker by training, but an educator. And I'm an educator who has the opportunity to be a part of the lives of so many young people. And really where I think I'm often called on is as a dad who works with other people's sons. And whether we like it or not, in urban America, the overwhelming majority of Black and Latin kids are being raised by mom. Just mom. Sometimes mom is grandmom, sometimes mom is auntie, but very rarely do mothers have access to the father with whom they created their children. And it's all sweet in the beginning, right? So many mothers who have a child with a man who they're no longer with, they don't trip over the fact that when the child is younger, they can refer to this cat as a baby's father, because that's really what he is. He was just a producer of the child. And as such, they find themselves raising a baby. And I cannot imagine what it must be like to raise a child by myself. My wife and I have done it, but even we didn't do it by ourselves. My mother and friends and family and our schools and our community have all rallied around helping us raise our sons. So I can't even imagine what that's like for a sister to do it by herself. But even if you do have your son's father in your life, you know that the baby that you had is very different than the middle schooler that you have, and they're completely different than the high schooler that you have. See, the baby that you have, the baby son that you have, is easily one of the most loving human beings that you could ever meet. There is no other love like the love between a mother and a son. The love between a mother and a son is pure. She actually will likely argue that the male who's loved her most and most purely, most unabashedly, is her son. And they develop this bond that's unlike any other. There's a difference between a mom and a daughter and a mom and a son. Moms and daughters, especially as they get older, can become like oil and water to the point where they can't even be in the same house. They're combative in ways in which you just think, wow. And if you happen to watch this as the other parent, you think, I need to keep y'all apart before somebody gets stabbed. But mothers and sons, they have a very different relationship. And the difference is that in those early formative years, little boys are the most affectionate of the genders. Most people don't realize that. Sad as it is that so many of our Black boys and Latin boys, when they get into school, they're seen as a danger, and that they're treated as if they're dangerous, and they're suspended and expelled, and they're talked to in very sharp tones. But the nature of a boy, especially a little boy, is to be extremely affectionate. Extremely affectionate. If you've ever worked with little boys, you know that little boys are the ones who come up and give you the hugs first. You can think of the little boy, if you're a teacher or you're a social worker, you can think of little boys who see you and their eyes light up and they're like, oh my God, it's you. And they'll stop whatever they're doing, because little boys don't often have the filters that maybe little girls do. And little girls are much more responsive to order than boys typically are. But these little boys, they just want to be loved. They just want to be hugged. They just want to know that mom is there. And if you are a man who happens to be in the life of a little boy, you notice those first 9 years, it's just mom and the boy. Like you kind of feel like you're out, like you're the third wheel on a date. Like they're just the two of them. And he's always going to her. And it's like, what am I here for? You might take them to soccer practice or baseball practice or football practice, and maybe you get a little sway because of that, because you might know a little bit more. But when he looks over on the sidelines, or when he's hurt and he's going through something, he's going to mom. And that's the same case when the mom is by herself. And so it's easy. It's a false sense of confidence that many mothers have when you're raising a son, because in those early formative years, even if the father of the son is, if your husband and he's part of life, you could think, look, I got this. I know what you're talking about. Raising a son, it ain't no thing. In fact, I can raise this son to be the man that I'd always wanted. In fact, I can show him how to love a woman, and he will right there. He will take it all, almost as if you're dictating his behaviors to him, like saying, do this, and he'll do it. Or he'll even anticipate it. He'll see you being sad, and he'll come over, mommy, are you sad? In the way in which you wish your husband had, or his father had. He's intuitive in ways in which men are not. You know men, and you don't see them as this intuitive. And you wonder where this guy's been all your life. And you think to yourself, if I could just keep him in this space. And so many mothers call their son my baby. You call him your baby. You call him, this is my baby. This is my baby. This is my baby. This is my baby. Because in your mind, you have crafted this image of him as a static being, that he is a baby and he is your baby and this is my baby, and y'all will fight anybody for him. It's why so many mothers come down to school and lose their mess. Like they come down, you say something about that. I know my son, he wouldn't do this. I wouldn't. Well, ma'am, I have the video of him doing exactly this. For so many mothers, your identity is attached to being a mother. And in the case of being a mother to a son, when you're a mother to a son who's up to 9 years old, 10 years old, you can feel like the best mother in the world. And when he does some things that are off kilter, you can come up with a good reason why he would have done it. That teacher must have said something to him. That coach must have spoken to him in a different way. They don't talk to him like I do. I know my son. I know my son. But then they get into middle school. And these hormones start to take shape. And they're not the way they used to be. It's easy for a mother to misunderstand what's happening, but she could begin to feel almost like there's a breakup underway. What mothers too often do in this space is they think that they have to keep the affection of their son. They have to continue to get along with their son. And in order to do that, what they do is they lower expectations. They pull back off of the discipline. They don't want him to be mad at her. They begin to capitulate to his whims because he begins to pout in a way that is different than he pouted when he was little. This pouting looks different. You know, he's getting older. He's changing. And, you know, he says he can speak his mind. He knows how to manipulate his mother, and he can say things that make her feel that if she doesn't do what he likes, then he's going to pull back on this love that she's getting from him. And this love that she's getting from him is fueling her, because the relationship that she had doesn't feel the same way that this does. Nothing feels like the love that she gets from her son. There's nothing that she's not from a mother, not from a father, not from a partner, even if she's with the father. How many times have I seen a mother who's married, a wife, talk about how she loves her son more than she loves her husband? And the husband knows it, and she treats him like he's, you know, an afterthought. Intimately, she treats him like he's an afterthought. Like you can only get some if you do all the dishes and the house is clean and we get along, and right before we go to bed, you get some. But my son, all day, every day, no matter what he does, no matter we go, everything I'm gonna do. And no child knows what to do with that level of unearned attention. They think that the world revolves around them. They think that the sun rises when they wake up and it goes down when they go to bed. And so many of our mothers, what you do is you feed into this false sense of purpose, and you let them think that they are the man of the house. And in your effort to try to get along with them, to maintain the level of love and affection that you get from them, you capitulate. You punt on first down. You give up too easily. You don't want to hold him accountable. So when the teacher calls you and tells you that he says something inappropriate, you think, well, there's got to be a reason why. And then he come home and then you ask him, why did you do that? And he says, I did it for whatever dumbass reason he says he did it. And you accept his dumbass reason because there must be a reason. He's your son. You've seen him before. You got 9, 10, 12 years of experience of him being loving and affectionate and affirming to you. See, this is what you're not missing, what you're missing. He's affirming you, and you want to keep that affirmation going. You want to keep this relationship going. So you don't want to break the pattern of letting him feel like he matters, like he's so important. And so what happens for you is around about the time he turns 13 and 14, he starts to push back from you. He doesn't have time for you like he used to. It's like a mature relationship that hasn't grown together, that the two people are no longer in that honeymoon phase. Those first 5 or 6 years of the relationship were so like, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you. No, I love you. I love you more. If you love me, I love you. I love everything about you. I love the fact you poop on yourself. I love the fact that you need me to change your diaper. Love the fact that you call on me for everything. I can't even go to the bathroom because when they were little, I gotta lock the door because I come into the bathroom. You say you didn't like that when they were little, but you damn sure made sure that the door was always ajar and you could always hear them, and everything was devoted to them. And I get why, but the problem is they never learned to earn your attention. They expect it, and they don't have to do anything good to get it. Just like any relationship, if a man doesn't think that he has to do anything to get your attention, then he's not going to do anything to get your attention. It's just the way human nature is. And guess what? This little boy is a man under construction. And he is seeing that you're an easy get. Please. He doesn't have to work hard to impress you. He doesn't have to get good grades. He doesn't have to go to bed on time. He doesn't have to listen to you. You say, clean your room, and he doesn't. And then you go up to, I said, clean your room, and he still doesn't. And if you don't, I'm gonna. And what are you going to take from him? You're going to take his phone that's cost $1,200? He shouldn't have a phone that's that expensive unless he needs something on it. There's a cheaper version of it. Why is your son's phone better than yours? That's how you know you've gone too far. Why is your son's sneakers better than yours? That's how you know you've gone too far. You know you've gone too far when you're doing things for your son that you're not even doing for yourself. It's one thing to sacrifice for the long term, but when you're putting yourself in a situation where you are fighting for his affection, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a situation where you are the one who is dealing with unrequited affection. So when he turns 13 or 14, there's a breakup. Straight up breakup. He's looking at his friend group or girls, and they're more important to him than you are. When you want to talk to him at 14, 15 years old, he ain't got much to say to you. Yeah, no. He calls you when he feels like it. You kind of feel like a jump off, like, wow. So you just call when you want something, because otherwise you go sit up in your room and just leave me alone and not talk to me at all. And I can come upstairs and try and start a conversation with you. Look at me like I'm stupid, like I'm bothering you. Like you constantly look like I always feel like I'm bothering you. I'm always bothering you. Like you seem happiest when you're furthest away from me. There is a breakup going on because he's maturing, but you think that you have to treat him like you treated him when he was a baby, and you have to capitulate to his every whim. And the way that you get him is you keep him in your good graces because you do what it is that you think he wants, which is the absolute right way to make sure that you're treated like trash. I'm talking about a relationship between a son and a mother, not a man and a woman. But you exalted him to this position of manhood, and you made him feel like he doesn't have to do anything to win your affection. And now he knows he doesn't have to. What you going to do? Be mad at him? He knows you're not going to be mad at him for long. He knows you really just want to get along with him. So if he does something to make you feel that he has in fact understood what it is that he's done to hurt your feelings, he knows he's back in your good graces. The challenge for many mothers, especially when you're the only one, is you don't want to be the bad guy. You want to have a good relationship with your son. And the reason why is because you ain't got nothing else. He's everything. And so you think that the way to have a good relationship is to get along with him like you would an adult, but that's not the way that you have a good relationship with your son, who's a child. The way to have a good relationship with your son, who's a child, is to set expectations and parameters and make sure that he understands what the expectations and parameters are, and that he understands that he has to earn your affection. You hear that one? You have to earn your affection. He can't think that he's just going to get your affection just because he woke up this morning. He can't think that the sun's going to be hung in the sky because he woke up. He's got to recognize he's got to hang that sun. He's got to do what it is he needs to do. He has to get himself up. He has to work himself through his problems. He has to find a way to make sure that he is in your good graces. The kids who I see who are the best behaved in school are the ones who know they have to impress their parents. The ones who I see are the worst behaved in school knows that their parents don't give a damn about how they behave, because they can always come up with some silly ass excuse as to why the child was misbehaving. Things have changed in our schools completely because our parents have changed. You've changed. We used to be able to say, I'm going to call your mother. And then, no, don't call my mother. Now they come into the office with you on the phone. They're sitting there like this. I already called my mother. Here, go ahead, tell him. She's already on the phone. Go ahead, tell him. Tell her what you're going to say to me. Is what they'll say to me. Is what your child will say to me. Coming into my school, coming into my office, go ahead, call my mother. You call if you want. Because he knows. He knows you're going to defend her. And every single child who's got somebody who's so willing to defend is going to need defense for the rest of their life. Sometimes in a criminal way. But in some way, he's going to need you to defend him against his baby's mother, because he's always going to be the one who's so wronged by everybody, and you've always been there to come in, and he's always right, and even when he's wrong, he's not really wrong. How many times has a mother come in there and said to me, I understand what you're saying, Dr. Perry. I get where you're coming from, and you know, he shouldn't have done that, but your teacher shouldn't talk to him that way. No, sis. See, your son came into class and he threw his book down. And so my teacher told him, don't throw your book down like that again, in a very stern way. But he didn't have to talk to him that way. He shouldn't raise his voice. No, Mom, you don't understand. Your son should not have thrown the book down. Well, kids do that. Don't you guys work with children? Don't you understand? Because she so badly wants to make sense of his nonsense. She so badly wants to find a way to rationalize the BS that he's doing so she can stay in his good graces, because her validation comes from being a good mother. And a good mother has a good son who's never misbehaved. And so it can't be that he misbehaved. He didn't misbehave. It's just your school. It's just your teacher. It's just you don't like my son. It's just the coach. The coach is the reason why. How many mothers have I seen go down to the sidelines to argue with the coach? This dude is volunteering, you clown. What are you doing? You look nuts. Well, he can't be talking to my son like that. He's at a basketball game. He's yelling at your son because he's at a basketball game. Maybe if somebody checked your son like you, maybe if somebody got at him like maybe you could, then maybe he wouldn't be in the situation he's in. What you can do is stop. What you can do is stop looking for excuses for your son's bad behavior in order to feel validated in yourself as a parent. What you can do is, as a parent who is trying to figure this thing out, is you can listen to somebody when they're trying to explain something to you that, in fact, your son did do something bad in school. Doesn't mean he's a horrible person. Doesn't mean he's beyond repair, but also doesn't mean he's above reproach. Hold him accountable. Let him know when he's disappointed you and show him. It's not about taking things away from him, because one of the biggest errors that we make as parents, and I made it too, is to think that if you take something from your child, or you beat him or you scream at him, that in fact is what's going to make him feel bad. That's not what makes a child feel bad. That's not what makes a child go inside him or herself and think differently about the way they act and move. It's recognizing that they have an obligation to meet your expectations. It's the same thing in any relationship. A relationship without expectations has no respect. And the place where you need the most respect is from your son to you, because at some point, Mom, he's going to be taller than you are. You can't spank a man. Well, maybe you can. That's a weird and different conversation. You can't spank your son, and he's not always going to be afraid of you, so you can't move him by fear. What's going to move him to be the young man that you need him to be is for you to set and keep expectations. And when someone, maybe his father or his uncle or some coach or some other man, comes and checks him and says that he has to be held accountable, maybe you just don't say anything. Maybe you don't challenge that authority. Maybe you greet that brother who comes in and tries to be helpful. as a welcomed addition to your family. Moms, I get it. I have no idea what it's like to be a single mother or even a single father. I'm in no position to judge you. I don't want you to think because I do what I do that I somehow have perfect sons, because I don't at all. They disappoint me too. And I let them know. But I also know that there are certain behaviors that I see from parents that almost always lead to something bad happening with a son. Every single loser man that I know has a backstory of a mother or aunt or parents, man and woman, who have excused all their BS all their lives. There were no expectations, and those expectations never came through, and they've never, ever, ever set them for themselves. They knew that they would be able to live in a good house and do whatever they wanted, eat when they want, drink when they want, chill when they want, because there was always going to be somebody to clean up behind them. And so he's not your baby unless you treat him like a baby all the way until he's an adult, in which case you are going to need to baby him for the rest of his life. And for some moms, that may not be a bad thing because you think you're going to always have a man around. But remember, he broke up with you when he was 14. So that he comes home doesn't mean that he's in a relationship with you. It doesn't mean he's faithful to you. In fact, he's cheating on you with the rest of life. He only uses you when he needs something. If you want to feel like a person who's valued and loved, then you have to demand that love, which means you have to set expectations on your sons, which means they have to know what it is that you expect of them. And when they fall short of those expectations, they need to understand and feel the sting of your disappointment. There are going to be times when people at school, teachers, friends, do things that are wrong. In many cases, it's going to be your first instinct to go down there and fight his battle. But one of the most important things you can do for him is to show him how to fight his own battles and let him know that he has to stop getting in so many fights. It's not your job to defend him for the rest of his life. It's not your job to stick up for him the rest of his life. In fact, it's his job to position himself to be able to take care of you for the rest of your life. Your son is your retirement plan. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Structure is essential. Expectations are vital. I get it. It's got to be hard. But structure means from the time you have your son to set bedtimes, when they have toys, if they can throw them on the floor, they can pick them up. When they eat off a dish, put it away. If you have grass, they can cut it. They have a room, they can clean it. They have clothes, they can wash them. They have homework, they can do it. They see adults, they can be respectful. These are all the things that you must do to create the structure that they need to build your retirement plan. The more structure you put in a child's life, the more capable they are to perform within structure, and that they don't need to be locked up somewhere where structure is imposed upon them. So, and no dumb questions. We try to answer the questions. The question this week was, how do I help my son become successful? The answer is treat him with love and affection that is driven by structure. Thank you for joining me this week. Next week on No Dumb Questions, we will have the opportunity to talk to the one, the only Faith Evans. Yes, the Faith Evans. She's got a tremendous story, bigger than her marriage to Biggie, bigger than what's happening in Colorado, bigger than her success as an artist. She's a mom. She's a pioneer. And man, you're going to get a chance to talk to her. Then the following week, I don't go too far out, get to talk to my main man, cultural icon, Jalen Rose. Not just a basketball player, but a man of our community. So next week, 6 p.m., wherever you watch us, whether it's on your phone or computer. 6 p.m. Check us out at No Dumb Questions. I can't wait to see you. Peace.